Good morning, everyone. You will have noticed the introduction of a mic in my hand. I just listened to the audio of the video yesterday and thought it was a bit muffled, so I'm going to try holding it out in front of me to see how that goes. But yes, welcome back to the Big Sigh, or welcome for the first time if this is your first video. I really noticed a lot of resistance to film the video this morning, and I noticed in myself thinking to myself, I'm not going to be charismatic today because I'm really tired and in quite a lot of pain. I'm just not up for it today and not feeling that great, physically and emotionally, just not in that energy. But then I remembered that I didn't have to perform or be Mr. Energetic or be whatever. I think that the way that I can be of service the most is just by being real. And I think I have this idea that as long as I'm true to myself and I'm being authentic, then that's all I can ask for. And there's so much stuff out there on social media and across YouTube and all that stuff that's just, I don't know, it's these polished things. I don't feel like we see enough of the real human stickiness, and that's what I'm here for. That's what the Big Sigh is all about, as I've talked about previously. So it's a return to ourselves and the reality of the whole picture, the human condition, we see a very polished version of all the good stuff on social media most of the time. And there's just this part of me that feels really determined to, just show something different and show something more real. And today I've been, procrastinating before filming this video. And I've noticed again these ideas of how I need to show up, right? Like, in what different ways I need to show up. But again, it's that dynamic of self-acceptance. It's like a rejection of those parts of me that I don't deem to be desirable for you guys, the audience, and maybe for the YouTube algorithm as well or something, I don't know. But I just, funnily enough, I try not to do this, but I opened Instagram before watching this, and that was how serious my procrastination was. Usually I'm really disciplined, but not opening anything before starting to film these videos in the morning. And I opened Instagram, and it was literally a woman saying, you just need to show up. She's doing a 30-day challenge where she's just showing up and being authentic on camera for Instagram. And it's literally day 8 for me of a 30-day challenge. It's crazy. And she just said the same thing. Like, she's just showing up. She doesn't need to show up in any particular way. She just needs to be authentic and be consistent and lock in, was her term, which I quite liked. It's just so wild. That's exactly what I'm doing, except I'm doing it in a slightly different way, I suspect. Less for Instagram, more for long form YouTube. But yes, I say all that because to preface a really nice big sigh that we can all do together. So yeah, again, just dropping this idea of having to be anything we're not, and in doing so bring love to those parts of ourselves that we don't feel are so acceptable, and try and come back inwards. Like, literally something that helps me is bring my awareness from an outward direction into an inward direction, and it's almost like physically bringing my awareness into my head and my heart, and just letting go of any ideas of how we should be and just meet what is present and with us in this moment. So with that sort of energy in mind, if you can, if you're able to in this very moment right now, is just to find yourself a seat and just take a pause. And if you're doing something, I just invite you to really stop and just ground, relax your body, allow things to drop, sit if you can. And if there's any holding, if you're noticing any holding in your body, the invitation is just to allow it all to drop. And then we'll just take a really big sigh together, breathing right into the sort of base of our tummy if we can. So and then on the out breath, just returning home, coming back to ourselves, So let's take a nice big in-breath into the belly. Take a couple if you want to. However many you want to, you can just keep breathing if you want to. Just remaining with your heart for a second. Not trying to think what to do. It's a reactive process, not a proactive process, Just allowing what's there to be there and be curious. Today I feel some continued sadness and dodgy stomach, and things aren't flowing so easily today, and that's my human experience today. I'm feeling really tired, woke up not feeling well rested at all. Feel like after this video I'm going to try and go back to bed and sleep a bit more. I'm not sure how long this video will be today, but I think quite a nice question to ask myself is what am I afraid of? Where is the fear right now? Because I think what I've observed in myself, and I think that this is just a major part of the human condition, I'd be surprised if I'm unique to this, but there's usually some level of fear going on in the background, and fear seems to drive so many of my decisions on such a subconscious level. It's like the more I've watched my mind, the more I've become aware of my human experience, rather than just being caught up in the stuff out there, the more layers of fear that I notice. And it seems like when you boil it down, in my experience, there seems really two underlying emotions. You're either in a state of fear or you're in a state of love. And I guess the definition of love in this definition is kind of the absence of fear, the absence of needing to control, and it's pure acceptance, it's pure allowing. Whereas the fear is the controlling, the opposite of allowing. It's trying to take control and trying to do, and to be in that. I think the definition of love I have is maybe slightly different from the typical one, where pure unconditional love just means allowing everything, no matter how it shows up, no matter how someone else shows up. Love is allowing all of their humanness and all of their messiness. It's not necessarily all these feelings and these lusting and all this stuff, in my opinion. It's deeper than that. They're feelings, they're amazing feelings. But And there's anxiety wrapped up in relationships, and all that stuff. And we sort of associate all that baggage with love. But yeah, we're either in a state of love and surrender, allowance, or we're in a state of fear in some way or another, And sometimes the fear is wise. The fear is there for a reason, and it really serves us. And maybe being in a state of love and pure acceptance for everything the whole time. Well, maybe that's what enlightenment is. I don't know. But yeah, sometimes we might need the fear. It's there for a reason, as same with our ego and our crazy minds sometimes. But we certainly don't live out in the wild, and we've got a pretty wild mind, a wild body. So it's difficult being a modern day human. Yeah, I've talked about this before. It's not easy. And today I want to be, I watched the video from yesterday, and the truth is I thought, damn, you look hot. You look good, man. I thought to myself. Oh. But what's funny about that is then it feeds the story of I have to look good, or like I'm going to get some validation for looking good or whatever. And then I start feeling a pressure to chase after that. And it doesn't allow space for me to look less good. I did a bit of an ugly cry yesterday, to be fair. But yeah, that also came like I was quite smiley and positive, and seeing that as a good thing and a desirable thing and something that I imagine that people would connect with better. But actually that's, again, sort of locking me into this paradigm of having to be smiley all the time and, positive all the time. And that's just, not really what I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling more of the sad part of the human spectrum of the human experience. Again, I haven't really got full clarity on that, but yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? I've mentioned it yesterday maybe, a big lover and try to practice nonviolent communication. I think it's an amazing practice. And one of the things that I love about the teachings is this idea of stepping out of the realm of judgment altogether and just meeting in a place of objectivity and feelings and universal human needs. I think that's just such a beautiful thing. It's like that Rumi poem. I don't know the whole thing, but it's essentially, there's a field beyond right and wrong. I'll meet you there. That's the opening line. I can't remember the rest of the poem, but that in that place, it's when we're kind of letting go of the mind and letting go of the fear, and it's a very real, it allows us, when we step out of that place, step out of our stories, it allows us to meet each other from the most real place, not adding anything on top. Even if we're making judgments that are really positive, you're so beautiful, or you're so clever. We can't have beautiful without ugly, It's a continuum. We're saying that you're on the continuum and that you're at the really good end. But where does that leave everyone else? It's still stuck in the same paradigm, We're still bolstering it. And then what might happen is kind of what I just explained earlier with my smiling. Then there's, people love me because I'm beautiful. I get compliments because I'm beautiful. Maybe I have to show up and be beautiful all the time. Maybe that's what's acceptable. And I love the nonviolent communication solution to this, which is brilliant. And it served me so well in life, which is, instead of saying you are beautiful, you basically say, thank you for fulfilling my need for beauty today, or something along those lines. You talk about your experience and how it moved in you, because also another element to all of this is people can only receive what they're able to receive. People can only receive what they're able to believe. Oh, wow, that's a great saying. People can only receive what they're able to believe. And what I mean by that is, if you tell someone every day that they're beautiful, for example, but they don't believe it, then they can't receive it. They can't receive it. They will just say, oh, that's a nice thing to say, but you're just saying that because you're being polite. I think that an awful lot. Sometimes I think I notice that thought coming up in me when I'm receiving compliments. Sometimes it's like, oh, you're just saying that to be polite and to be nice. Your goal is not to actually say something that's true. Your goal is just to try and make me feel better, And I've noticed that I'm constantly it's quite exhausting trying to understand people's motives and behind the words that they're saying, That's quite an exhausting task, and it's so refreshing when someone just says, God, I was watching you play music. I was listening to you, and there was this one particular moment where my heart kind of just exploded with joy. And I just wanted to say thank you, because it was such a beautiful thing to experience. I mean, imagine receiving that compared to, you're such an amazing musician. Oh my God, I just think you're so good. Yeah, and what comes up for me, even as I respond to what I just said, is, oh, that person's feeling inadequate in some way, because they're saying that I'm good, and almost by proxy, they're saying that they're not good. And that's uncomfortable sometimes for me, But with the previous version, just explaining the experience and how nourishing that was, I can't debate that. I can't say, no, you didn't experience this joy. You didn't have an experience that was really lovely. That is their experience. I can't take that away from them, and I can't also debate it. If I have a negative story about myself, then I will just continue with my negative story if I'm told that I'm really great, because I just won't believe them, no matter how convincing they try and be, Although it is helpful sometimes, it's probably healthier than receiving judgment on the other end, obviously. But I think that the final solution is to step out of the spectrum altogether and just stop making those judgments and start speaking about our experiences, our feelings, our needs. And I just find it so nourishing when I receive that kind of comment, and that is fulfilling, and I can really I can dare myself to fully receive that, and I've started to try and do that with other people, and honestly, it's transformed a lot of my relationships. I would say it's like a small tweak, but it has huge benefits that weigh out. What am I trying to say? They're way bigger than the sum of their parts. It's like such a small thing for such a big benefit. So, yeah, take that one away with you. Just give it a try. See how it goes. Just talking from my perspective, it's been amazing. And it's also helped me to become aware of where I struggle to receive, and then, the teachings of MBC try and say, if you do receive a judgment, maybe it's a compliment, whatever it is, you can sort of translate what they're saying into an experiential thing, like I did, like I said earlier, and then receive that. They don't have to say it the perfect way. You can sort of, this actually, like, it's likely that, whatever they're giving me a compliment for, like, really met their needs in some way, or maybe it prompted some really lovely feelings for them. And I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy that, so we can sort of even use this to, or on the other end of the spectrum, if we're receiving hate or negative things, we can strip away the identities in some ways and say, that human being's needs aren't being met. It doesn't have to be an awful thing. And that's hard to do because obviously we're defensive. And if someone's literally criticizing us, it's hard not to make it personal, take it personally. And it's still such a work in progress for me. Gosh, I do take things personally a lot, and I'm really trying to give love to myself, and I'm getting so much better. But it's hard. It's really hard. But something that does help is to understand, instead of hearing what they're saying on face value and receiving it on face value, we can translate what they're saying into, this human being's needs aren't being met right now. They're not my responsibility to meet those needs, but I'd like their needs to be met, and maybe we can, with kindness, imagine how in the future we might be able to take on what they're saying, but not also take responsibility for their needs, and sometimes not necessarily change at all, sometimes just carry on doing what we're doing. Because there may be nothing wrong with it, it just didn't happen to meet that other person's needs for whatever reason. But they're the one that is responsible for meeting their own needs. And we always have choice in every moment, even if it's some really crappy choices. So they could have removed themselves from the situation, they might have had options, and that criticism is kind of projection a lot of the time, and it's often things that I criticize others about things. Most of the time, the things that I do judge and criticize in others are the things that I'm insecure about in myself, almost always, actually. So it is a projection, but there's also, when we're receiving that sort of criticism or projection or whatever it is, there is an opportunity to self-reflect and maybe change if we want to, but from a place of love, not from a place of losing ourselves. And I can speak to this through a lot of experience where when I receive some feedback that I find hard to receive, or some criticism or some judgment, I then abandon myself and my own opinions of the situation. That's been really challenging, particularly leading a team. I get this sense of like, God, that's their opinion, and that's everyone else's opinion, and that's the truth. And what I think is, I can just, and that's been really disempowering, and it's not been helpful for anyone. I've really sort of lost my center, as it were. I've lost myself in that. I've just, chronic people pleaser, spent so many years not even realizing that I have needs, and putting my needs to the back of the queue. So there's a real art to receiving criticism, I think. where we can hold firm in our own beliefs and not necessarily, just completely capitulate, which is what I've done in the past, and then try to cater and make them feel better, because there's fear. Again, that state of fear really comes up in me when I receive criticism sometimes. I'm really worried that they won't love or accept me. I'm afraid of losing that connection, or afraid of being punished in some way. And the sort of right and wrong realm, the judgment realm, it's like I step into that the fear makes me want to prove them wrong. What they're saying is wrong, because if they can realize that they're wrong, then I can be okay in their eyes again, but then it just it becomes this like trying to prove who's right, and underneath that is just pain for both people if you're both doing it. It's just, I want you to love me. That's essentially what's happening underneath it all. And it's so tragic, because that's the reality. And yet we use this strategy, which is to prove the other person wrong, because we just want to be accepted. We just want to be loved, right? But we both want to be accepted and loved. And we're both so hell-bent on proving that we're right, that we're not listening to the other person. Neither of us are truly listening and stepping into the other person's shoes. Imagine being them. We're just in our own thing and being so defensive and scared that we can't step out and truly listen and truly mend. That's how you mend, well, in my experience anyway, that's the only thing that's ever properly worked. So that state of fear, whereas when we can be in that state of love, it's allowing space for ourselves and the other, allowing the humanness in ourselves, and all of this defensiveness will come up, and that's just an automatic program. It's going to take many, many years of practice and awareness for that to diminish. And it does diminish. I mean, I've experienced that diminishing, but God, it's a long old journey. It's probably going to be a lifetime's worth of work, practice. But if we can just allow space for ourselves and noticing that initial reaction, and then really putting ourselves to the side and really listening to the other person, then that's stepping out of, that's meeting Rumi in the field beyond right and wrong, and understanding that other person's trying to meet their needs, and if we can not take it personally, we just understand the sort of beautiful human needs that aren't being met there, and try and help them, I guess, and help ourselves in the same way. It's like understanding our human needs and realizing we're not the stories that we tell ourselves, even the good ones. But just trying to get in touch with our human needs and allow ourselves to be the messy, imperfect humans that we are. And I'm sort of noticing as I say that and reflecting on how that was quite a roundabout, messy, disorganized way of communicating that, and I'm not sure it was as efficient or clear as it could be. But maybe just exemplifying what I've been talking about, which is to just say, that's okay. That's the human that's turned up in this moment, and that's what's come out. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be super perfectly efficient. It doesn't have to be, I think that's one of the dangers with social media, is that we're trying to get... God, a pigeon's having a right old go over there. Yeah, with this... You okay? Fly's so loud. Crikey, flapping its wings. Is it stuck? No, he's alright. There we go, he's okay. Oh, it's two of them having a go, that's why. There. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. That kind of thing, is it? Oh, where was I? Perfectionism. Yeah, with the short form content, it's got to be so efficient and orderly and all that sort of stuff. But that's not how it is to be human, really. So I think that's one of the things that I'm attempting to do with this, is just to allow for the messiness, allow for the lack of efficiency. And maybe that won't hold people's attention, because people's standard attention now is on to the next thing. But my invitation with these videos is really to let go of that needing to rush, needing to be somewhere else, needing to get the next dopamine hit, and just to slow down and be with life in the moment, you know? Again, I talked about escapism a lot in previous videos, but I really noticed that in myself, that need to escape. Yeah. Which brings me back full circle to the video that I watched on Instagram, where, yeah, although actually she did kind of chop up and edit her video so that it really works for Instagram, but what she did do is just she's just being real and honest and vulnerable, you know. And it wasn't perfect, and it was messy, but it was so beautiful watching it, because it was just a human being a human being. I really believe that this is what we need to heal our species, is more acceptance of our messiness and our humanity and our imperfection, and allowing others to be the same, you know, bringing understanding rather than judgment. And one thing I've noticed, apologies if this is repetition and you've seen this in one of my previous videos, but it can't be stated enough. I think it's such a useful thing, is what I've noticed in my experience is that when I've been able to bring love to myself, I've automatically then had the capacity to bring that same love for whatever it is. You know, I'm automatically then able to allow that thing in other people too, and bring love to other people. So it really is a direct correlation, I've found, between the level of acceptance and love I can bring for myself, and then the level of love and acceptance I can bring to others. And it's not like I have to work on accepting others more, because in a way, that's not accepting something about myself. That's saying I'm not accepting others more. But actually, it's all about my relationship with myself. So sometimes I can accept the fact that I can't accept others as much as I'd like, you know? It's like, where do you start? But ultimately, what I'm trying to say is all we need to do, how I see it, is that all we need to do is love and accept ourselves, and whatever it is that we're being triggered by in other people, we don't have to change. We don't have to be kinder to other people. You know, when we're being triggered and maybe we lash out at others or say things that we regret or whatever, or even just have judgmental thoughts in our mind, we don't have to improve, be kinder, you know, to other people. We have to be kinder to ourselves. We have to bring allowance to that dynamic within us, because that's the only reason why there's resistance. It just reveals to us what we're not loving in ourselves when we get triggered by someone else's behavior, or judgment comes up for us in a negative, even in a positive way. You know, God, that person's so beautiful. For example, I'll use the same example. underneath that, there's so often I'm ugly on the other side of that, right? But if we can just, so the job is not to change how we behave towards others. The job is to change how we relate to ourselves and to bring more love and allowance to ourselves. And I can't say this often enough because, it's changed my life so much, having this approach of not changing the world, but changing myself. It's like a fundamental principle of many religions and philosophies and teachings. And it's so true. I've found that when I've found peace with a certain dynamic or thing in myself, then I just don't get triggered by it when I see it in others anymore. And I also am such a beautiful experience to be able to expand my capability for compassion towards someone else for experiencing something that I've experienced and found love for in myself and acceptance. And then I can just sit with that person without all the triggeredness coming up for me and really be with them without judgment. And then that really helps them to allow it in themselves, you know? And I'm on the receiving end of that when there's something in me that I find really hard to accept, but someone is in total acceptance of that thing within themselves, and they can just hold me and listen and receive. Whew. God, there's a lot of animals in this area. Cats do love a good scrap round here. Don't know if you can hear that, but that was so loud. Yeah, when other people can give that space for me, I'm like, oh, interesting. Maybe it's not as awful as I imagined it to be, and maybe it's not so unacceptable in society. And it's like, again, it's like a little sigh. Wow, okay. Maybe I've had it wrong all this time. Maybe my story's wrong about this being unacceptable. Maybe I can bring love and acceptance to this thing. And that is healing. That's healing. So yeah, in summary, I've got a hell-bent obsession with trying to be as authentic as possible. And I believe that I've borne fruit from that. The depth of my connections with people when I'm talking from a place of honesty and from my heart, yeah, is great. And so this is what I'm attempting to do here, and it's an invitation for you to do the same, and to also try, if you can, to bring kindness to yourself and step out of the realm of right and wrong, and find Rumi in that field, and just be together, because we're all just here in this continuous present moment together, right? The past doesn't exist outside of our minds, and neither does the future. We're all in this together. And there's this beautiful saying by Ram Dass, which I love, which is, we're all just walking each other home, which is just so profound and beautiful, because we get caught up in the complexities so often, caught up in all these stories, and we forget. And actually, for me, healing and spiritual growth has been just about remembering and zooming out of all of these stories and remembering, oh yeah, I'm here in this space, in this moment, and so is everyone else, and we're all in this together, having this mad experience. And before all of the stories, before all of the identities, before all of the jobs and tasks and things I need to do to prove that I'm enough, there's just awareness, and bringing my focus, my point of awareness back into myself, and getting perspective again, seeing the wood for the trees. It's a remembering. So yeah, again, if these videos are really helping you, or you're enjoying them, or you're connecting to them in any way, please do consider subscribing and commenting and liking them and sharing them. Firstly, just for me, that would just be really nourishing experience, and I'd be really grateful to see you subscribe and all that stuff. It just helps me to know that people are connecting with this and people are relating with this, and what I'm providing is of value, because I have a need to contribute to other people's well-being, and that feels great. That feels fulfilling. That feels like a fulfilled life if I can do that. I can be of service to people, and obviously on a wider scale, the videos can reach more people, and we can grow the channel and those more technical things. And I'd love to reach as many people as I can and help as many people as I can, So sending you loads and loads of love, whatever's going on in your messy, complex life, no doubt. Wherever you are in this moment, maybe take a breath and just be in the heart for a moment and be with the heart. You don't have to do anything. Just allow the heart to say what it needs to say or feel what it needs to feel. The stomach. And sending love to you all, my friends, and looking forward to seeing you in the next video. So good luck on your continuing journey, and as always, happy humaning. Hello. You want some love? Oh yeah.